Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders who are helping our world awaken to love. I'm your host, David Trotter, and today I want to share with you a powerful conversation that was held at an intimate live event with Melissa Minnich. She's the author of High on Life, a prescription for bliss. Powerful book. Melissa is a gifted healer and channel and spiritual guide. And we talk all about her book and how she overcame so many traumatic experiences in her childhood and young adult years, and how she healed herself and experienced powerful seasons of awakening in her life, and then went through an initiation in Egypt. And the result was a year of loss and death. And in this book, she not only shares how she navigated those experiences in life, but the tools that helped her experience healing and transformation. And so really this book is not just a memoir, but kind of a guide to help you, introducing you to different tools and modalities throughout each chapter. We talk through those in this conversation. There's Q&A with the audience, and it was just a powerful afternoon. And I wanted to share with you a recording of the event. So, hey, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Awaken Magazine podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Click subscribe, leave a rating or a review. That's an easy way for you to help us spread the word about these inspiring interviews that we release each and every week. All right, let's dive into this intimate event with Melissa Minnich.
First of all, thank you guys so much for joining us for this experience with Melissa. Melissa lives in Austin, Texas, and has graciously chosen to join us today for this intimate event. And you are going to love her heart, her passion, her wisdom, her knowledge. And I'm excited for you to be able to dive into her book as well when you get that. I'll just read a couple sentences here for you about Melissa. Melissa Minnich is a transformational leader, humanitarian, and spiritual thought pioneer dedicated to empowering individuals to unlock their highest potential. As the founder of the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School, Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School, and creator of the Quantum Miracles docuseries, Melissa bridges the realms of science and spirituality, offering a revolutionary approach to personal growth and healing. And she just released High on Life, a prescription for bliss, which you guys will be able to get today. And so will you guys give Melissa a warm welcome?
And what I would really love before we start is let's just all drop into a deep breath into our hearts together, just to come in, set an intention just for all of us to have a beautiful experience. Just take a deep breath and breathe into your heart. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up for you and for me. My heart is so full. Because always the right people, just the right amount, always come, and I'm so grateful to be here. So just breathe in that gratitude into your body and into your heart and into your mind, and just think of one thing that you're grateful for right now in your life. There's so much abundance around this. Thank you so much for coming.
You both said.
Mm-hmm.
So the flow of our day, and actually, let me just back up to kind of tell you a couple things of why we're here. One, this amazing space behind the lids is owned and curated by my amazing partner, Mandy Adams. So thank you for having us today. And so we have incredible classes here almost every night of the week: breathwork, meditation, sound baths, manifesting, women's groups, all sorts of amazing things. If you're not familiar with it, this space is just a beautiful community. And then also, one of the things that we partner on is a publication called Awaken Magazine, which is an online magazine. And we happen to have a print version there that we did for Conscious Life Expo several months ago. And our vision is to amplify the voices of conscious leaders, healers, and coaches. And we do that through content and interviews that we release every single week online at awakenmagazine.com. And we also just put out an anthology book that actually Natasha was one of the authors of that book. We had 32 contributing authors. That book just came out last week. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon in 3 different categories. And I think we've got 62 reviews. Not that I'm counting or anything. Each one of those is very precious. And then we also love to put on events. So this is our second event that's curated by both Behind the Lids and Awaken Magazine. We're looking at doing another one, just so you know. Well, we're not looking, we're doing it. On Sunday, December 7th at a large community center here in Costa Mesa. And so it'll be an all-day expo with the marketplace and workshops and all kinds of stuff. But today, I'm very excited to have Melissa Minnich with us. And I have interviewed Melissa before for the magazine, and I'm just thrilled for you guys to hear her wisdom. So the flow of our time together is I'm basically going to ask her questions that I'm interested in from her book. And then at the end of that, I'd love for you guys to be able to ask questions as well. So as you're, hearing conversation, maybe if there are things that are coming up, maybe take note in your mind. I want to ask about that. Okay. And then at the end of our time, Melissa's going to lead us in an activation and experience based on whatever she senses that we collectively need today. And then at the end of our time, you're welcome to get a book from Melissa and have it signed and all that good stuff. Does that sound okay?
Yay! Let's do it.
So my first question is based on the title of the book, which is High on Life. And so how would you define high on life? And is it even possible for us to be high on life on a consistent basis outside of just, kind of fleeting moments of falling in love, going to Disneyland, getting a new car, whatever it might be?
Yeah. So high on life, I think of it like this. You ever remember when you were a child and you had that like awe and childlike wonder and you like kind of look at the world with like rose colored glasses and everything feels yummy and you just want to play? And there's this experience of that kind of feeling in your body that permeates throughout you. Well, the reason I named the book High on Life was because I got to a point in my life where I would go to parties at events where, to be clear, I have some very eclectic friends. A lot of them do drugs, do different things, whatever, blah, 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 right? Like even in the spiritual plant community these days and all, whatever. And everybody always be like, what's she on? And they'd be like, she don't know nothing. She's high on life. And it was because I literally like live into an experience of like, I'm joyful, playful. I have this feeling within me. And yet I still have emotions. I still have shit that goes wrong. I still have days where I'm screaming, mad, and crying. But underneath me and underneath my experience is this unbounded feeling of joy that permeates out through my life that actually allows for me to live into the world in a different way. And yes, it is absolutely possible to live in that state all of the time, because High on Life, a prescription for bliss is not about being blissful all the time, because that is a spiritual bypassing piece of shit and misnomer, right? It's not that. It is a state of consciousness that you live in that allows for you to have an experience where even when you're going through the ups and downs of the chaos of life and the things that are happening around you, there is a perception and a frequency that you live in that allows for the world to flow, that allows for you to see things in the moment when they're happening. And it's going to be that, like you're having the car crash and you're getting hit. And at the same time, you're like, I know this is happening for me. Like, even though you don't know why at that moment, but you recognize that that the pain or the trauma or the thing that you're going through is actually in the end going to be the biggest, beautifulest thing that you could have ever imagined. And instead of that being something you recognize way in the future, you start to live into it in the moment. And that becomes something that you live in because of the vibration that you're in, the frequency, the pieces of it. So. Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah. I talk a lot.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to read some passages from the book that I found to be very inspiring and get your thoughts on it. And so on this same topic, you write, these higher states of consciousness allow us to transcend the limitations of the ordinary mind and tap into the deeper dimensions of our existence. As we rise in consciousness, we begin to access layers of wisdom, insight, and creativity that are typically veiled by the distractions and demands of everyday life. This expanded awareness reveals the interconnectedness of all things, helping us to move beyond a limited ego-centered perspective and experience life from a place of unity and compassion. Two more sentences. In these higher states, the barriers between the inner and outer worlds dissolve, allowing for a free flow of energy, love, and understanding. We experience a sense of oneness with the universe, a deep connection with the energy that animates all life. So, expound upon that for us. Help us understand that oneness.
So I think that we all have had moments of it, moments of, again, that awe, that wonder, that thing, that moment when you just have that tear that showed up or this frequency in your system where you realize that I'm not alone. And a lot of times it doesn't happen often anymore, right? We're living into our daily lives. We are scrolling on our screen. We're doing these different things, but you've had it. Everyone has had a moment of synchronicity, thought of someone they've called, had a time where they have felt just the absolute bliss or joy or that vibration. And that is when you're tapping into this field. You're tapping into that feeling of the oneness of who we are. And yet it's a fleeting thing for most people all of the time, right? Like this is the thing that the gurus talk about, or that the saints say that, I had this moment in time, or, Ralph Waldo Emerson writes about that one time, this thing that happened. And, this is where Rumi and all these experiences come from. Yet it's like dipping a claw in to like, so I got this is pink, right? And so when they dye this cloth, you have this color and you dye it and you lay it out and it gets lighter as it sits out in the sun. And you dye it again and you lay it out and it gets lighter as it sits out in the sun. The more you dip into that moment of awe, that moment of bliss, that moment of wonder, those pieces, and rewire the nervous system, the more it becomes sustainable in your everyday life. And that's the difference between transcending and meditating and feeling that peace and actually walking in it in your daily life.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have found from my own life is that in order to experience the highs of life, that there's also an experience of the polarity, the things that I don't prefer, the lows of life. So I want to dive into, in just a moment, this experience that you had in 2021 in Egypt. But I know that happened during kind of the COVID experience. Take us through your life up until COVID. You have an amazing story of resilience, of transformation, of healing. Kind of catch us up to 2021 with your life and what you had experienced in terms of some of those lows and how you had intentionally pursued healing yourself.
Mm-hmm. I grew up, I maybe for the adverse childhood experiences, but ACE score. So it's a psychological test given by a psychologist to children under the age of 18, and there's 10 questions. And for every one question that a child answers yes to, their experience of suicide, drug use, illnesses, it exponentially rises, right? And so it's everything from not having food to eat, sexual trauma, to abuse, to, you name it, across the board. There's 10 questions, and each question in the question had usually two, this or this. I was a 10 out of 10 by the age of 10. And on most of them, I could have answered yes to both of them in the question, right? So for everything from like not having food to being sexually abused, to having, my losing my mother, my father nearly killing us, my father raping a woman in front of me, like abuse, you name it. Like I've seen it, I've done it, like I had all of it. And then I tried to commit suicide as a teenager, like 12, like not even teenager, tween, 12 years old, because I'd already lost my mom and I was then just forced to live with my grandparents, which my grandparents were my father's parents, and they're the ones that raised the sociopath. So I was then in the experience of living with them, and they did the best that they could, but they were mentally abusive, and there was this piece of that. And so I was a super high achiever, straight A student, top of my class, and yet I had all this emotional turmoil. I'd been abandoned by my mom. I had, and I thought it was my fault, because when my mom left at the age of 9, and I was standing there and she's like putting the car seat in the car. My sisters were 3 and 1. And she's like, I'm going to take the kids. And he looks at her and said, you take the kids and I'll kill all of you. And so she left. And it was like, and I thought because I had been standing there and I was the one that heard it, that I could, child's mind, could have done something about it. So I lived my whole life like that. And then at the age of 17, as a senior in high school, when I was the student that I took every district test in my school for all of the courses, right? I was the one student, I got to do them all. And I was that smart. I had every scholarship. I had full rides to all sorts of like really high-end schools and all the things. And then I was brutally raped in a garage. And I quit on life. And I just hid. And I was able to graduate top of my class, but I ended up not going away for college. And I went to Ohio State, but I was super traumatized by them. Like it was across the board. I got married in college. I had a kid in college. I graduated from college, top of my class, super high achiever on the outside, tons of trauma. My husband would find me in the closet with bite marks up and down my arm with self-harmer. I ended up in the hospital time and time again, anxiety disorders, all these things happening. And then fast forward, all those things were going through my life. And then 9/11 hit. I left my husband. I had my daughter, I have my child. I had my child. I left my husband, got into another relationship. And then 9/11, everybody remembers what happened with 9/11. I lost my job, my partner, and everything during 9/11. Because I worked for the Ohio Department of Health and Ohio Department of Transportation. Because again, high achiever out of college, had a really great job, 6 figures and all the things, because I could achieve with all this trauma. Not knowing I had all this trauma, I had eating disorders. I was like, again, like I was 111 pounds when I got pregnant with my kid, and I'm 160 now. Can you imagine me without that 50 pounds? So 9/11 hits, and I do what I'm laying on the ground. All this stuff is happening. I don't have a job. And I became an international drug trafficker. 28 people went to the federal penitentiary. I was one of 2 that walked away. I nearly killed myself. I did actually overdose 2 of my friends in my living room in 2004, which is what ended up making me leave the drug trafficking before everybody went down a year later. Those 2 people did survive due to some heroic efforts on my part to make sure that I didn't care if I went to prison. I was going to save my friends' lives. But it changed my life forever. And so from 2004 up until 2021, where he's talking about, I went on a journey to try to heal my life and change my life. 5 years later, in 2009, I ended up homeless. Spent a year living in my car. And that was the year that I really decided to just try to figure it out. And it was 2009 when I went to Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I called them my gateway drug, and became and started working with them. And it was from there until 2021, I built an international organization and helped thousands of people all over the world. I had over 10,000 students. I built 2 companies, one that shut down, and I'll have a second one now. But it was all through. I have over 20 degrees in certification and training. And I spent a lot of time trying to heal that little girl, right? And that's kind of what led me up to Coca and a little vaccine job.
Thank you for sharing that, Melissa.
Yeah.
You'll get some very raw stories connected to the history that she just shared in the book that are very heartfelt and connected and very powerful. But I do want to start in chapter 1. You take us to this event that happened while you were on a retreat. It was a women's retreat in Egypt, 2021. Why did you go to Egypt? And take us to that moment where life changed for you.
Yeah. Well, why did I go to Egypt? 2020, the world shuts down. I'm living in Australia at halftime. Like I have my house here in California, but I'm over in Australia and I'm doing retreats in Bali. The world shuts down and I'm stuck and I can't get back. And, you come back here to the United States and it's not really what everybody said it is. And so I went from traveling to almost 10 countries a year in 2019 to being stuck in my house for a year in 2020. So my first trip in 2021 was Egypt because I had to get the F out. Like I was done, right? I was like, for someone like me who definitely has a gypsy soul and loves, like I'm a grid worker. I'm like going all the lands, doing all the things. I was like, I got to get out. And so this woman had posted about Egypt and I had been called. I was like, okay, it's cool. But I didn't really know why it was called to Egypt. You ever been called to a place and have no idea why you're called there? Yeah, I had no idea what I was in for. I thought I'm going to go see some big pyramids and whatever. Boy, did I learn something. But I did. I literally went thinking I'm going to go on this trip. I'm going to go to Egypt. I'm going to go to Jordan. I'm going to go to Israel. Well, COVID, that didn't happen. I ended up staying in Egypt for the entire month instead. And the first 10 days of it was this retreat. So, yeah.
So talk to us about what you now call your initiation. Where were you? Who came to connect with you? What happened?
Yeah. So I was at a point in my business where, and in my life where I was comfortable. Things were going really well. I was doing good things. I'm having some ups and downs, but I had a good following. I had a lot of students. Yet I kept getting the nudge that it was time to move on. And, when things are going okay, you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to be comfortable. I'm not going to do that. I have, again, I was living here in California. I had my house. I had a great community. I had people I loved. And I was doing great docuseries and it reached like 1 million people. I had a really great online presence, at least through those pieces. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm super comfortable. And I get to Egypt and I'm teaching things that some of them are embodied for me and some of them I believe, but I haven't quite embodied yet. It's like those pieces of, the things where I'm teaching quantum healing. We had a quantum healing certification and training was going great. And I'm definitely the quantum healing piece. And then there was this course we called Quantum Miracles. It was about manifesting, but it was a very 3D manifesting. And there was some alignment and things with that. But I just started embodying and working with like light, and like I am light and we are light and the breath and the central channel and these different types of things. But I didn't know what I didn't know because I was teaching a concept that I actually hadn't, I had activated my spine. I was activated, but I didn't know what I was doing with all of this stuff. And so I was definitely teaching some things that were beyond that. And then I get to Egypt and on the very first part of the trip, the first couple of days that I'm there, we go to the Giza pyramid and it's during COVID. So instead of it being like so busy that you can't move, we only had our group of 12 plus maybe like 5 or 6 other people in the pyramid with us. And, I'm just staring at the sarcophagus and I just have this like I'm like drawn to the sarcophagus, got to lay in the sarcophagus. This is before I knew that this was a thing, right? Before I knew that what happens in the sarcophagus, I'm thinking it's like a tomb, right? Like, did not know anything about Egypt when I went there. It was like one of those weird things. I was very 3D around what was happening in Egypt. And so I just look and this guard looks at me. It's like he can read my mind. And he's like, do you want to lay in that? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right. So I do. I lay down and I lay in this sarcophagus and I feel this energetic pulse that just goes straight through my spine. And I feel my body and I'm like, and I can feel the energy just spiraling up my system. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I was like, what was that? What just happened? And I knew, I was like, there was a full on activation. Now, even funnier, and I'll fast forward to what just happened in Egypt, because last time when I laid in the sarcophagus, I have video this time of me laying in the sarcophagus and my entire body is lifting and I'm like waves like this. You can just see like, I take my own people to Egypt now, my own students, and there were some wild things that happened in there. But that first time it activated me into this energetics that's available in our bodies that I had been playing with and using, but not in that type of way. And so fast forward, we leave from there and people are looking at me like a little different. You can tell there's something going on, when you with me and in my field and in my energy field. And so we get down to Karnak to Luxor and I'm with a group. We have like private access to some really cool stuff. And then all of a sudden the two guardians in these long robes, they come up and they grab me from the group and they're like, you need to come with us. And I'm like, yeah. Because again, remember, no risk factor, right? I've done all the things. You can't take me anywhere. I'm going to say no. I'm like, I'm going to go figure it out. Like some people would be like scared. And I was like, no. So they take me into this room with the hieroglyphs are all still in color and everything. And there's this like metal lattice door and they take me in and they lock me in there with them. And they start speaking, which I now understand was like it was a light language. It was the thing. And they're doing these hand movements and these things all around me. And my whole body is just lighting up. And I actually have pictures and you can see like light, right? Like it's just like the energetic. So whatever had happened in my spine, they're like activating in my entire energy field in this really powerful way. And the other women are like knocking on the door and they're like, we went in there. And they're like, no, only for her. And I was just like, okay. And so we leave from there and they take us into this and take me into this private room with the statue of Sekhmet. And you know what they say about Sekhmet. Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
I was just saying to say, tell us more about Sekhmet.
Yeah, So I get into this into the room with Sekhmet. And so energetically, what they've now done in the scientific studies and proof is that the energies of these bodies are actually in these statues, right? That's why they are shaped the way that they are. In every single person that I've ever known that has ever been there, and even when I went back where there's 12 of us in there, you can see them and they're moving and the statues are moving and there's energetics and things happening. So when I first went in there the first time, I just thought I'm like loony or whatever, right? Like I'm like, there's got to be something going on here. This thing's energy's moving and everything. But I was like, I'm in for all this. Like, you know, I mean, I obviously was deeply spiritual and at that point was teaching the God field and was working with, you know, quantum physics and these different types of things. But this was a little beyond my belief systems at that point. So what I could believe, but I put my hand on her third eye. And immediately when I did that, Sekhmet carries a scepter. And this really beautiful scepter. And she takes the scepter energetically and she puts it into my spine. And like the bottom of it goes into my root chakra. And the top of it, where the top of it is, which, you know, looks like those like diamond shaped, right? And it goes right into my pineal gland and starts glowing this indigo blue. And I start having these like transmissions. Like I start immediately having a transmission. But the funny piece of this was that this wasn't the first time I'd seen this scepter, but I thought it was a staff. Because in 5 years prior, on my 40th birthday in Bali, I was in Taolat on my 40th birthday, and I had an energetic shift in my life. The whole world shifted around me. I was in such a state of bliss and oneness and like that. I was bawling my eyes out, watching the world, and the whole world went, and it was like literally like this. And I felt it and I saw it and I just stopped. And I was like, oh, it's always going to be before 40 and after 40. I knew at that moment it was my first timeline jump I'd ever done. And I felt it viscerally and physically. And when that happened, that I was handed this energetic staff. I was handed a staff and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? And they're like, just hold on to it. You'll know what to do with it when you do. And that was, yeah.
So for people who maybe haven't had an experience like that, when you say they handed me an energetic staff, what does that look like? Are your eyes closed? Are you psilocybin?
I was not on any not on anything, not on any plant medicine, not on a single thing. I literally was just in the field. I was having visions. I was hearing things and I was having visions. My eyes were actually open during all of these experiences. Most of the time when I take people on journeys or we go through experiences, they're having these things where they're having an activation or the third eye blows open or they're having something in their body, their eyes are closed. But this is why it was so profound for me, because I had never had an opened eye experience. And I was also, like I said, when I say physically, viscerally feeling it in my body, both in Karnak, in the King's Chamber, in Bali, I had physical reactions in my body, and I had literally healings. Like I had an issue in my body before 2017 that just disappeared, right? Like that was like, so some of these types of things that, like there's a rewiring of the system and it's on energetics. And when you start to understand how the quantum field works and how the unified field works, you start to understand that we are all energy and that this is quantumly possible immediately. But when you're living in a very 3D world where you look at the material world as this thing that it is, these types of things sound very esoteric. And that's why I bridge the two, because I want to reach people that look at what I'm saying and be like, what do you mean an energetic staff? And you put a thing in your body and you start whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, and let me explain to you how that works scientifically, because it really fucking does. Right. And so because even though all of this stuff is more ancient than science is now proving what we know to be true. So yes, it was physical. It was eyes open visual. It was energetic, but I could feel like, we all feel energy, right? I could feel these things. I could see these things happening to me. But more than anything, you feel it in your body. And when you feel something, then you know that there's something happening. And no, there was no psychedelics involved.
So you're now holding the staff. This is 5 years prior. This is at age 40.
Yeah.
So what happens over the next, like, do you just held on to it?
I kind of forgot about it for a while, honestly. Like, yeah, I just was given this staff. I never knew what to do with it. And I was like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, what does staff represent? Like, I'm going through all the things, staff, Moses, staff, right? Like, what does this thing mean? Like, am I supposed to use it to like, whatever? I didn't know. I was like, is it a stabilizer? Is it? Because you're like, in my mind, like I teach, part of our courses, what we used to teach to is intuition and how to like, read people's body fields and stuff like that and things. So yeah, I mean, I would get information or I'd get these things and then it would be my job to figure out what that meant for me. So I did try for a while to kind of figure it out and it just never like nothing really ever clicked. And I just kind of like set it aside and didn't think about it at all. Like it was just one of those things. But over those next 5 years, my life drastically changed because like I said, 2009, homeless, 2010, start my business, 2013, make $30,000 a year, not a weapon. 2017, I had just gone through a whole reworking. I opened the Intuitive Intelligence Academy. And then that next 5 years, which was, 2017 to 2022, I moved to California in 2017. I had been traveling the world for 33 months straight at that time. So I moved here. I did, all of these, because that was actually, I moved here a month after that experience involved. And so I ended up being here. So there was a complete rehaul of my life in those 5 years.
So now you're standing in front of Sekhmet and you received this. You differentiated a little bit between staff and scepter.
Because I thought it was a staff.
What's the difference in your mind?
So a staff, when you think of a staff, it is like the staff of Moses or something like this. It's solid. It's got a solid top. Where scepters have magical properties in the tops of them, and they're like usually like wrapped with something, or they have a crystal, or or something like that. And so I didn't know enough to have the energetics. I just knew I was given this thing that had this ball on the top of it. I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't until I actually you could fully intertwine it and understand what it was that I recognized that it was an actual scepter.
So she places it inside of you.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Like I said, immediately I had this energetic experience in my body, and I was like, this is why we think that people are crazy, right? Like I start hearing things, I start, getting messages, and I'm like, these aren't messages. Like at this point, I'm very intuitive, working with guides. I can work with the higher self. I'm always getting my messages from my clients. I don't know exactly where they're coming from, right? But I'm like very specific. I know things that are going on or things that happen in my clients' past or the future way before they ever tell me. But this was different. This was like different energies and different, like, oh, this is this very specific word or very specific energy that I'm coming through. And over time, I started to realize that they were actual archetypal energies that were coming through, right? So since then I've worked with Hathor and Isis and also Sekhmet and even into other lineages that go way beyond that into like the galactic. What it opened was what I now know to be true, which I didn't understand then, was it opened a channel to the to other planets, to other dimensions, to galactic information, which it's a good thing in 2021 that I didn't know that that's what it was, because I would have kind of been like, I'm good. Just to be clear, I was like, I don't. I mean, again, I do obviously believe that we're not the only people on this, in this vast universe, but I wasn't ready at that point to even engage in a conversation around that. And so that was, those started coming through, and the energy was coming through. At that point, I was teaching quantum healing, and that was part of the schoolwork and everything. But I got this message, you're supposed to do a transmission from Egypt. And it was the first time ever I had hundreds of people come onto the call. I was in Egypt. I was still there. It was after the retreat was over, and I did a transmission, and I didn't really do anything. Like I just sat there and did it. And everybody's like, that's the most amazing thing. I'm like, whatever. And I was like, oh, then you get there. That's weird. Right. And it was, then I started to understand the power of what was coming through, because it was not just the messages, but there's now that I've learned to harness it and use it, like energetics and codes and frequencies that come both through me and my system and also my voice that can shift people's fields.
One of the things that you dive into deep in the book, connected to that story, is the activation of your central channel and what you call the pillar of light.
Yeah.
What is that? And a huge part of the book is focused on activating and cultivating your pillar of light within us, and that you connect that to the experience of being high on life and experience this bliss consciousness. So, what is it?
Yeah. So think of as above, so below, right? We all hear that as within, so without. We are a mirror of the heavens in the physical, right? So it's the physical and the spiritual. And how many of you ever heard the saying, we are the rainbow bridge? Ever heard the rainbow bridge? Okay. 2 people have heard the rainbow bridge. Well, think about it. All your chakras are the colors of the rainbow. And if we are the bridge as above, so below, if it's the physical and the spiritual, then what's the connection between the two? Well, you must be the antenna. And so if I'm the antenna, then how do I actually activate my antenna to both ground into Mother Gaia and the earth and use the physical, right? Which is the manifestation, which is the creation, which is all the things that we want to create in our life in the physical. But we've got to bring the spirit into it. And so it's because you are a spirit living in a physical body, and we either try to be one or the other. We're either out there floating out in la la land, or we're over here completely in the physical world. And it's like when you combine the two of those together, that is the magic that happens within ourselves. And that's the activation of your pillar of light. So your central channel is actually within your body, right? It's the chakras. It is this, your spine, your energy. You've heard of like Kundalini energy rising from the spine. But the pillar of light is literally your light connection, your light body that runs through your central channel, your spine, all the way down into the earth and all the way up into the highest point of light, God source, divine light, whatever you want to call it, through the God field, through the galactic gateway, through all it that runs through, and it creates a toroidal field of energy around you that becomes the light. Like most people at this point in time, if they follow any kind of science, we know everything has a toroidal field. You know, your heart has a toroidal field, your body does, the galaxy does, the planet does, right? That's all of these things. And when you, within our own selves, that is this pillar that we are then the connection. And so when you are able to pull in the energy of life, because we don't get deep into this, but everything is sound as frequency turns into sound is light, you know, it's this whole thing. It's like, this is the thing of like, you are light particles turned into a physical reality and a being. And it's like this piece here is this channel that runs through you that connects you in between those so that you can be the rainbow bridge. Because that's what we came here for. We didn't come here to not experience ourselves and our bodies. We came here to experience the spiritual through the physical. Because I love when I heard one time somebody said, if you live 75 years and every day you wake up and it's bliss and it's joy and it's so amazing and all the good things happen at some point in time, I know what I have. I call it my good girl searing. You know, you bump up against this thing where you're like, I need a little fucking adventure. Like, give me something different, right? And what if you do that for 75 lifetimes, right? We're such big souls. At some point, you're going to be like, can I be the villain this time? Can I do that? Right. And so that's what we've come here to do. We've come here to play these roles in these games and then learn how to remember who we are and bring them back together. But we came here to play a game, a role. Like, our oversoul is the best gamers in the world. They're like, what are we going to do that lifetime? Let's see. You know, because I'm sitting at the bus stop and, you know, somebody's sitting over here and they're like, okay, I want to remember how to forgive in this lifetime. But I'm talking like, I want to have forgiveness be the thing. So you're going to have to do something so bad. David, we're up there. We're like looking down. David, I know you love me.
Pick somebody else. Pick somebody else.
You're going to have to do something so bad to me so I can remember. And the biggest soul, the one that loves you the most, comes up and steps up and says, I'm going to be your villain in this lifetime, but remember who I am. Remember who I am. And so you come into this body to build this pillar of light so you can remember who you are. And when you connect your physical body into that higher spiritual body, it actually shoots you into a higher state of consciousness. It allows you to stay in this bliss consciousness. You get to experience this when you feel that lightness, when you feel this and you start to realize the perception changes and you say, oh, you are actually not my enemy. I teach in detention centers, in prisons, and I go to places. I've worked with women and children that have been trafficked. I go to places in different parts of the world that I've been that you would look at these people as the most villainous experiences and things in the world. And when you can break open and have compassion for them and realize what they were doing something for someone else on a soul level. Does not make it okay in this life. I'm not saying that, right? But we get to then engage. And so that's what that bliss consciousness, I feel the emotions, I feel these things. I'm activating my pillar of light, but I'm living in such a state where I can see the world in such a different way that it gives me a moment of compassion and grace and that. And so that activation, and then what happens with that activation also is there's physiological responses. Your body will heal itself. I had 5 herniated discs. I have the X-ray or the MRIs from years ago. I no longer have herniated discs. I had every single physical thing that you could imagine. I had all sorts of things. I had eczema. I've had this. I've healed every single thing in my body. So not only through that, the healing, it's physical healing, it's trauma healing, it's all of these things, all through building this pillar of light within your body.
Next time I make Mandy bad, I'm just going to say, you asked for it before we got here.
I don't know that that's it, David.
You wanted to learn forgiveness. I don't know. You just,
yeah.
That does not work.
Yeah. No.
One of the things that you talk about in the book is us becoming aware of the patterns that we are living out. You call those harmonic points. Why do you call it a harmonic point? What does that mean? And in the process of us cultivating this central channel of light, how do we recognize those patterns and how do we heal them?
Our life is like a spiral. Like we're living on a spiral where we're going through experiences. How many of you have had the same experience happen more than once in your life with different people? Right. Yeah. Right. That's because we live on a spiral. And every time you hit that same point on the spiral, it's called a harmonic point. But the challenge is, or the thing is it's a choice point. It's a harmonic point that is then showing you time and time again where you can choose a different destiny. You can choose to do it a different way. Now, maybe the first time which is the imprint, the first time that thing imprints in your life, you didn't have a choice maybe on that imprint. Maybe it was from another lifetime or another experience, or that was your bus stop moment, right? Well, so at the age of 9 years old, when I lost my mom and my home and everything that I knew, and obviously with that came with like financial challenges and abuse, all the things, created a harmonic point in my life where I equated pain and love and money and loss all together. And I repeated that 5 times in my life. Like the stories are in the book, I'm not going through them, but I have more than one time. I lost a partner, therefore I lost my job, therefore I lost my home, therefore all the way up until 2022. The story of why I left the country in 2022, it was because the loss of 7 people in my life that passed away. Plus I was in a relationship, a poly relationship with a couple where they destroyed us. She was my best friend and he was my lover. And it was and it destroyed me. And I lost that. I lost my business. I lost my home and I left the country. It was a harmonic point for me, but it was different than any other one because I already knew what it was happening in that moment, right? And so through that experience, we get to look at those signs every time you're saying, I'm standing here right now and I can either be the victim and say, oh, this thing is happening again, or I can say, you know what? I could take 100% full responsibility for who I am in my life and how I've created this, or with my part in it, even if I am actually a victim at times. We all are, right? But how can I be responsible for that to choose something different? I've dated my God, dated the same person how many times, or, so I'm a dater of unavailable people. So I end up dating married men, or not even knowing they're married, or ones that say that they're available, but then they're really not, and then they disappear, right. So these harmonic points, I was in the past, women too, because I was married to a woman, right? So all, and so we have these points, and what it is when you start to get into these higher states of consciousness, when you're living in that, as you're standing in the moment, and you could actually see and shift the energetics in your field and make a choice right in the moment, instead of looking back 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months later and being like, oh, should have done that. Or here we are, I'm back on my same pattern again. I get to actually choose in the moment to see it different. So I love to, I always say, what would love do? Or what would Melissa do? What would love do? And then also really understanding, like, how can I really look at this and say, there's a beauty in this lesson right now in this moment? and then how we create those situations. Before I left California here, but this is part of the story of what happened in 2021 before I left the country, was my car had been parked in a parking lot and somebody had hit my car. And so, for me to get it fixed, I was going to have to pay the insurance on it and stuff. I made an offhanded comment. Like, it'd be really great if somebody else just hit my car so I could just get it fixed in one day. Within 2 hours, I'm sitting at a red light and a car slams into me from behind and the damage was on the front of the car. Slams into me from behind and I hit the person in front of me. Somebody else's insurance fixed my car, but I also ended up with, a neck injury and like all sorts of other stuff, So, what do you want to be careful what you ask for in your, when you're looking at what's happening with your harmonic points.
One of the things that you invite us into is in this process of experiencing bliss consciousness is reconnecting with our heart. That's an important concept. You write on page 48, the heart is the gateway to a field of infinite possibilities, consciousness, and the quantum field. This consciousness is a realm of pure, unconditional love, a frequency and vibration that unblocks superhuman qualities, allowing us to access our deepest desires and greatest strengths. This is how we access the higher states of consciousness and bliss. How do we access our heart? How do we tap into the wisdom of our heart? You're asking us to, become aware of the central channel of light. You're asking us to be aware of harmonic points, the patterns. You're asking us to tap into our heart in the process. How is the heart connected to those things? Like tie that together with the heart for us.
So the pillar of light is the last chapter of the book because it's a process to get to building it, because you build each section, and one of the sections is the heart, obviously, right? This is the center of who we are, and it is connected to a field of love. So the thing is like, you are love, you are light, you are all of those things. The only thing that's keeping you from being those things is your belief or your trauma or the things that you have experienced that have created these distortions in your field. So you don't actually have to tap into or do anything. You have to remove the things that are keeping you from being that which you already are. You already are that. And so then that's why we look at the harmonic point, why we look at the imprint, why we look at the inner child, right? Why I talk about why my book is filled with all of my traumas and the ways that I went through healing them and stuff, because it is those pieces that will allow for the truth of who you are to shine out. And on top of that, where your attention goes, energy flows. So dropping down and working, because we all have, like, especially here in the United States, like we have an epidemic. We have a pandemic. Fuck that. We have a pandemic of broken hearts. We have a pandemic of holding our hearts, of having, safety, or not wanting to have another broken heart. And the thing is that, Ruby says the light, the wound is where the light comes in. The idea of, it's called kintsukuroi, and it's Japanese pottery, right? In Japanese pottery, what they do in Japan when a pot is broken is they put it back together with gold. They mend it with gold, and it becomes more valuable than it ever was before because of its brokenness. And that is what we all have to recognize for ourselves. And so one of the simplest things in the processes in the book, I teach the heart breath. And it's really awesome. This is not one of my own processes. I adapted the heart breath from Heart Math Institute's heart breath. I'm actually getting to interview them here for the Global Oneness Summit for Humanity's team coming up in October. I'm super excited about that. But it's an adaptation of their process of tapping into the heart and creating coherence between the heart and the brain. Because what's happened is we shut our hearts down and we're using all this up here. We're all thinking with our heads instead of thinking with our hearts. And our heart actually has a brain on it, and it controls our cranial brain. And you want to tap into this heart and actually have it control your life. And so a simple process of breathing into the heart, and recreating that connection between the heart and the brain is one step on your pillar, right? So it's like here and here's part of your pillar. You've got these other pieces and up to down. But the most thing we see in all the wisdom traditions, the prayer hand, right? But what it really is it's a mudra that we're supposed to tap it here because where attention goes, energy flows. As I put my hands here in prayer or even here or here like this, immediately I'm coming from out here in my external and I'm signaling my body to come in here to my internal. And then you can just start to feel like, what does it feel like if I were to love that part of myself or to breathe into that part of myself or just to, open. And then you can start working with the life energy around that. But even something just as simple as if you're having a hard day and, we start with breath, but if you're having a hard day, putting your hands right there will immediately bring the attention to the heart area.
One of the things that I failed to mention about the book is it really is kind of a part memoir, part guide. Because each chapter is connecting you to different practices, as Melissa has mentioned. I want to keep going up the channel to our throat.
Yeah.
Because you just mentioned it a moment ago of taking responsibility. And that's one of the key themes that I see in Melissa's book is our need to take responsibility for every aspect of our life. That we are the ones who tell the story and create the light, whether we are doing it intentionally or unintentionally. And you tie that into our words in this chapter on page 122. Our energetic makeup, particularly the throat chakra connected to your voice, plays a key role in shaping our experiences through sound. When we speak or think with intention, especially the expressions of love, we broadcast vibrations that can resonate deeply with our DNA, supporting emotional, mental, and physical health. And this helps with building the pillar of light. In the same way that tuning forks or singing bowls produce healing vibrations, our voices can be powerful tools for energetic alignment and self-healing. By focusing on loving thoughts and words, we cultivate a vibrational frequency that aligns us with higher states of consciousness and contributes to a state of bliss. Help us understand how we can be more intentional with our thoughts and our throat chakra.
Well, so we know at this point, it's well known that sound and frequency create different things, right? Like I'm pretty sure I don't go anywhere now that people haven't heard of Dr. Emoto's wonderful experiments with water. So we know if you're talking shit, then you're creating murk. Your body's 75% water. And if you're talking beautiful, loving language, you're going to create these beautiful sacred geometry and geometric patterns in your system and that are really, really powerful. And so the challenge is that a lot of times, we are so wonderful and loving to the entire world. And then what are we doing to ourselves? Right? We beat ourselves up where we say that, well, at the very core, now going beyond seismatics and water and looking at the geometry of all that, they're going all the way down to the DNA. Your voice and the way that the thoughts, because whether it's your voice out loud or the thoughts that you're thinking are coding your actual DNA on a DNA level to where that encoded information, one code of DNA can create 3,000 different proteins. What does that mean? That means that your DNA is producing your health, your wellness, or your dis-ease from the voice that you have in your head that is speaking to it on a daily basis. So you're literally commanding your own body through your thoughts and your intentions and the way that you are. So if you knew that, if you were literally like you have a child in front of you and all you're doing, we have 9,000 thoughts in a day, 75,000 of them are the same. And if they're negative or they're deprecating or they're about non-abundance or whatever it is, right? Whatever your thing is that keeps you out of whatever is whether it's a physical or whatever, that is because there's something in your energetic field that's through the commands in your voice and in your in the sound, which comes all the way down to frequency, that's being encoded in your DNA, that is literally bringing itself and then making itself all the way up through your body. I think I say it like this: your body recreates itself every 7 years. All of it, right? 30 days, some of it, your skin, the different things like that. But every 7 years, your bones, your everything is, if you're not, if you're 40, if you live 49 years, you've had 7 bodies that have not one piece of the same of who you are. So if you have a disease or a situation in your life that you've had for more than 7 years, then that means it's because you are speaking it or thinking it. Plain and simple. You're talking it into your system. Or if you created a disease in your system that now you're perpetuating through your system, it is due to the same thing. So we want to use the power of our voices. It is the most powerful instrument that you have. I mean, I love this. I love sound healing. I do frequency trainings. I do all this stuff and everything. But in the end, the own power of your own voice is your medicine. You literally can learn to tune into the frequencies of what is my frequency for receiving, and you can sing it, you can tone it, you can speak it. That's where light language comes from. You can learn how to find the tonality of what that is, and you can become your own sound machine, your own sound healing vibrational machine.
How do you find that?
It's an intuitive thing, right? So we want to try something? Okay, let's play. I want you to think of something right now, and this is going to be different for everyone. So just think of something right now that that you're wanting to create, or something that you have a challenge. You can do one way. You can say, I have this challenge, and the opposite of my challenge is this thing over here. So if I have an abundance problem, I might have a receiving problem. So opposite would be I'm able to receive, right? Or if I have a physical challenge, just think of something that you're wanting to create, experience in your body, but make it down to one word. So it would be to receive, love, joy, peace. Okay. And I just close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to just think of that word. And then I want you to go to a moment in time where you've had that experience. And then I want you to just ask for the parts of you that know how to just allow. It can be a sound, a song, a frequency. Don't be embarrassed. I want you to just allow for your body to vibrate at that experience, and to let it, first you can vibrate and hear it inside your body, and then allow it to come out and see what shows up for you. Now, if you've never done this before, it might feel weird, or you might feel embarrassed, or you might think, am I doing this right? Take a long time to go through and teach people practices that work with the voice chakra, and specifically tuning into a certain sound or frequency that works. And if that's not working, if you don't have a sound, what you can do is ask for a symbol, a geometry, or you might get a symbol. You can learn how to actually place those symbols of geometric shapes into your energy field. And you can tune into those, and they'll develop sounds also. If you have a sound that came to you, just raise your hand so I can kind of see where we're at. And so I like to ask, for those of you that didn't get a sound, what did you get? What did you notice? Can you share your sound?
My word was abundance, receiving, and I saw myself as a little kid getting this Spider-Man helicopter, and my grandparents, they gave it to me, and I just elation, and I just kept thinking, just saying, thank you, 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 thank you.
Okay. Yeah. 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 But, and you can tell the frequency of that thank you in your voice, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like thank you, thank you, thank you, right? Like that. I mean, yeah, it can definitely be a word. It can be just, Emily, what about you? What was yours?
Well, I had an alt drop in from my crown chakra, a bit of my heart, and there was a lot of my heart. And then I heard, oh, 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 oh.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. So yeah. And so you can literally like, I see it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be, but it's something like what I want it is like use that voice. So I get, mine comes in a different way. So I get, or I'll get like really low tones sometimes on different things, or I get a lot of light language that comes through. In our mystery school, we spend a whole month on the throat chakra and on learning how to encode sound into your field and like what those do and be. But you have to be open, right? Like it's also a part of like when I'm comfortable enough to be able to do and share and you know and do that and what that is. I have a student that's been working with us now. She's been in mystery school for a little over a year now, and she's just hitting her third round. And just 2 months ago, her light language came in, and she just was like, all of a sudden, was like, wow. And there's a frequency encoding, right? Because right here, he was getting words, she was getting some words, but there's a point where the words go away, and you get to have something that comes below the words that is just a frequency for you of like. It goes beyond space and time, and that's tapping into, because if you think about it, words are a very human thing. You know, if I'm tapping into something from another dimension, another galaxy or something like that, it is just that as a frequency. It's a thing. And so I'm wanting to open up, if I can, to even more than that. But the power of that is, as I talk about tapping with sound and frequency, is that you can pick it. And you could be like, what did Ankh stand for you? Self-worth. Okay. And so you can use that. And, you know, so we teach the tapping, like you can do unk, 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 unk. And I'm like tapping that into my system. So her DNA, because that's the word that it gives her, her DNA knows that's what unk is for her, right? It's not going to work for him. It's only going to work for you. And you're doing that and you're tapping that into the system, because we're working out with the meridians and the energetic lines. And there's a whole thing on that, but you can start to tap that into your system, because we have physical bodies. The trauma is in the body. You're tapping out the self-worth and tapping in the energetics of worthiness. Yeah.
You want anybody else share?
I mean, anybody else want to share their? Yeah.
So my word was presence.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like this,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. And so then how do you encode that right into your daily life?
as is so often,
Mhm.
you turn it off to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would literally just like through my day, right? Like, because the more you do that, if it's present, the more you're going to be enveloped in presence. And this, I saw somebody else raise their hand also. Yeah.
My word was receive, and I picture like a boy meant to make me special.
Mm.
And ever like, oh,
Yeah. So for you, Om is a receptivity. So oming, right? If I want to be more open to receiving, and this is how we switch from affirmations and what the world tells us, like do this affirmation, this thing, into encoding your own energy field and your own information. Because when you get the message, and this is how I taught in our quantum healing, how we taught intuition, was if I see an orange for me is not going to mean the same thing as an orange for you. So if I'm teaching you an intuitive course, or I'm teaching you about receiving or abundance or self-worth, and I'm giving you my code for it, my quantum code is not going to be the same as yours. So we want you instead to find your code, because yes, some of these codes are going to work for everyone, because we can align to that. You can tell yourself that is, but if you find the ones that are specific for you, your lineage, your star lineage, your body, or like all the lifetimes you've had is one uniquely one in a fucking trillion, whatever, I don't know how many souls are out there, right? And so we want you to have your own codes that you're going to be able to, put into your body.
Anyone else want to share?
well, my word was receiving, because I'm working on this old belief that when I receive, I owe. So
Mhm.
I've been working on this,
Mhm.
receiving. And I've been doing this, because when I receive, I remember how lucky I used to be without owing. It was just like, it was just coming. So that brings me back to like, I love that.
Yeah. And also the awe is a release, because almost like if you're receiving and you're owing, you're like, right, I'm like tight. But if I'm receiving, I'm flowing, I'm open, and I'm like okay with it. Yeah. I had a very similar thing with receiving. Mine was, if I receive, I'm gonna have to give something I don't want to. Like, it was very attached to my trauma. So I'm like, I don't want anything from anybody at all, and it took me a long time to open up to being received. And it was dear friends like my friend Josie and things like that. Like, even though, 'cause I'm talking about, like, even within the last 5 years, I've had issues with that. They're like so open and giving that it was like with no it's expectation of like, you have to, or you owe me this or whatever. Just like, I love you. And I'm like, oh, that exists. That exists. I'm actually staying with Josie, and I'm back home again because she's like family. So, yeah.
Are you receiving and owing, or receiving and flowing?
That's right. Yeah, right? That's cool.
That was good.
Yeah, I came out of nowhere. I like it.
I love it.
I'm a poet. I didn't know it. I'm like, I know.
I want to read one more small section here before we open it up for some questions. You have named your mystery school the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School. And so in chapter 10, you talk about soul alchemy. So the goal of soul alchemy is ambitious and profoundly liberating, to release us from the shackles of core wounds, soul loss, and the myriad ways we obstruct our own light. By restructuring our personality and dissolving the layers of attachment, avoidance, and identification, we can exist in a state of pure being or soulful awareness, the ultimate transformation, the alchemical gold. What is it? What does it mean? Like, define a little bit more soul alchemy.
Yeah.
And
so alchemy, like, right, alchemy or an alchemist is someone who takes, at least in spiritual alchemy, and this is like for all space and time, we've heard this idea of alchemy, taking metals and turning them into gold. But I truly believe in what I've always known as spiritual alchemy, and what they were really talking about is turning our wounds into gold. Again, it's that I don't believe, so my process and what we teach and what going through with the mysteries is, I don't believe in this idea of cutting cords. How many of you have heard of like cut the cords, like energetic cutting the cords? What happens when you cut a cord, right? Really think about cutting a cord, and what instead, and the energy is never lost and it's never gained and it's always there. So if you're cutting a cord, something's going to be off somewhere. But if you transmute the energy, because again, everything is love. We live in a field of love. You are that, I am that. It is love and light. That is all that we live in, but we have created distortions around that. So instead of cutting that cord, if I send that cord, that experience, that thing back to love, I transmute the energy so that it becomes that which it was already before, because it came from love, because that person that was the villain actually came down out of love to create this thing. I'm going to send it back up to that. And so therefore, on a soul level, I get to be this transmutation alchemist in my own life of transmuting my wounds into the gold, because I'm now living at a level where I can see, I call it the soul's eye view, right? The soul's eye view. I now get to be that higher self looking down on my life, saying that thing that I thought was a wound, that thing that I thought was like the metal in my life, the trauma, all those things were the gold that allowed me to be the experience that I am now. One of the stories that I tell in the book that I'm going to just share real quickly, because I think it's really profound to understand this, is in 2016, my son was graduating from high school, and I was homeless, right? 2009. While I was homeless in 2009, I promised him that during his high school graduation, I'd take him backpacking across Europe. Nobody does that, right? I'm homeless, living, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to take you backpacking. Like, I made a promise, and I was darned if I was going to not keep that freaking promise. And so by the time 2016 came around, I was at I'm helping a lot of people, getting ready to do my first international speaking event that summer. And my son, I'm doing a retreat in Asheville, and my son messages me and he's like, it's like a Friday. And on Tuesday, there's a big event. And he's running against my alma mater. And he's going to, he's like, do you want to come see me run against your alma mater? I'm like, I'm in Asheville. I'm living in Florida. I'm in Asheville right now, right? Like, I got to go from here to there to fly. But I had promised him I would never miss a thing because I had missed everything. And so I was not going to miss a thing. So I flew into Ohio. I rented a car in Columbus, and I'm driving to Waynesville and Goshen, where all my, I have all these things happening in my life. And I stop in the middle of the road, and it's the house where I grew up with, where my father was before I was rescued. Like after we left my mom, like all the trauma was there. Across the street was the house that I was brutally raped in when I was 17. And then catty corner from that, it was like this. It was a triangle. Was my grandparents' grocery store that they were the ones that took me in afterwards, but they were the ones that were mentally abusive. And so I called it the Bermuda Triangle because I drove into this triangle. And by 2016, I had helped, thousands of people. I had been on stages. I had done these things of getting ready to go international. I had 2 books out at that point that were compilations. And the last time that I had come into town had been in 2003 when my sister had graduated from high school. And I was an international drug trafficker at that time. And I came guns ablaze and fingers up, just like, fuck the world, like whatever, like I had my kid in tow. And I hated the world and didn't want to be back in this town and this trauma and all this stuff and everything. And so here we are 13 years later. And I stopped the car in the middle of the road and I just burst into tears. And tears of gratitude, because I realized the alchemy of my soul. The gold was all of those things that I had gone through and everything that had led me to this, from the man who had raped me to the abuse from my father to all the stuff with my grandparents. If everything that had happened had brought me to this moment in time where I was getting ready to go back to the alma mater, where the only person that had ever stood up for me was my high school teacher, that he was the track coach of this of my high school. And my son was running against him, and I was going to get to see my son run in this thing. And I was going to get to see my coach and my teacher. And I was going to get to walk into this experience. And I was so grateful. I just bawled my eyes out, and I drive into the school and I walk out. And the first thing I do is Mr. Jim Upperly walks up to me. And I just was like, oh my God, you've had such an impact on my life. And he says, I've been following you up. I know everything. And I just was like, and it was a combination for me. That to me is soul alchemy. That is the healing of the pieces of where I'm taking all of these things that most people would think are shit and the worst things in your life, and you turn them into something where I'm living into something where I'm now giving back and helping others. And that doesn't mean that is perfect, right? That was 2016. And in the year 2021, 2022, shit happens. Like we all still live a life, I have, friends, she's hurt me. And I call her crying, it's not, I'm not saying that our life is perfect. I'm saying that I live in a different state that allows for me to see the perfection of it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd love to give you guys an opportunity to ask a few questions. Does anybody have something that's coming to mind about any of the topics that we've talked about, or something that came to you? Yeah, Ronnie. Let's see. Oh, man, this. We'll just take your questions. I appreciate how you just walk through life with all that stuff. So that's my question. A lot of people will give up on themselves. It's like the story of, Tony Robbins said this, but it's said many times, about the drunk father who raised 2 kids, and one kid became a drunk and the other one became highly successful. So they asked the kid that became a drunk, why are you drunk? He said, because my dad's drunk. Mm-hmm. And he asked the other kid, why are you so successful? Because my dad's drunk. Mm-hmm. So they grew up in the same environment, same household, everything's the same. There's something different about the one. That's what I see here. What is that? Because not anybody could do that.
I think anybody can. It's a choice, because I have seen it, and that's the difference do I choose? And for me, I was lucky enough. I think we put all of the things in place to give us the opportunity to choose the new path, right? Again, it's a choice point every time. For me, I got married at 19. I had my son at 9 days before my child, 9 days before my 21st birthday. And when at 5.5 years old, when all that stuff went down, when I overdosed my two friends in that living room, when I walked away that day, it wasn't for me. It was for him, because I thought I was going to prison or I was going to die. And I knew that if I didn't get out now, I would never be there for my child. And so I didn't have enough strength at that point for me to do it for me. And so I made a choice for someone else. Like I chose for someone else. And then it stepped on me the resilience to do that. My sister was an addict up until a year and a half ago. And she asked me the same thing for many, many, many years. And she was like, how did you do it? How are you different? What makes you different? And I chose every day, and I'm not perfect. Like, let's be clear. It has been a long and winding road. I'm nowhere, I can write a book. I can do the things. I still have, up until me a couple of years ago, like I've gone up and down the challenges of life and things. But I think that I had a resilience and a way of like never giving up. Like I'm not going to give up ever. But I think that it's one, community and support, people that love you. Like I couldn't have done it. If I didn't have my kids, that was my piece. So I think it's like having someone that believes in you really makes a difference. I believe that there's some karma and soul path stuff that goes with that, like what we're supposed to learn in this lifetime. But I believe that every single person that I know that has changed or done the thing or whatever, always just made a choice. And it's like, do I really, really want to do this or not? And maybe it takes 10 times and 10 choices because you try and it doesn't stick, and you try and it doesn't stick. But it's choosing it over and over again. But you can't do it alone. Like that's plain and simple. I think that's what one of our biggest challenges with the world and society right now is that we can't do this alone. And so many people, we live in a disconnect. And one of the things I talk about in the book is the disconnection of our society, the numbness, the things, right? It's about anxiety and stress and the path that we're leading, and like understanding that the more disconnected we are, the more and more it's harder for us to do what is the right path for us. We are communal people. We need family. We need friends. We need people that love us, even if it's just one person. They say it only takes 8 minutes. They say they're having like the worst time in their life or whatever and stuff. They said, and did study with like people that were suicidal and depressed and things like that. And it only took 8 minutes send a text. You have 8 minutes. 8 minutes is all it took to change somebody's life and not commit suicide or to get them out of depression or not to use a drug or anything. For most people don't have somebody they can text in that 8 minutes because we're living in a society where you'd rather sit on Instagram and think you have friends or Facebook or whatever, but are you really connecting? And do you really have people that will show up for you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key. Like, do you really have people that show up for you? Use your community. I think that's a big piece of it.
What another question?
Well, under one question.
Well, I'd love to give other people, an opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, do you have a follow-up to it?
No, it's more terror.
Okay.
Yeah, comments. I mean, it just seems like you're meant to do big things no matter what that is. Because even when you were in your darker days, it sounds like you were still kind of killing it. You didn't say you were on the corner slinging dope. You said you were a drug trafficker.
Oh yeah, no, I was killing it.
You know what I mean?
I made a lot of. I made
killing
it. I made a lot of money. Yeah, but you know what is funny? This is where that story of like money and love comes in and everything stuff. I always knew whatever my energetics was, right? I made a lot and I lost it all. I have literally, lost everything in my life more than once, like entirely given up everything in my life more than once, but also hit the highs of the highs. But this was the polarity that I believe I was being taught, right? I could reach a high, I could reach a low, I could reach a high, I could reach a low. I have seen the depths of the depths. I've been in the slums in India working with women and children that have been trafficked. I have been, I have been and sat at tables with billionaires. I've seen the highs and the lows, because therefore in that I've been able to find that neither of them actually matter. Because that was when I had tons of money, did it matter? No, I still wasn't happy. Or when I was this, or when right? Or in these pieces, or in that things, and then I come to this place where I was like, oh, I get it, and that's the polarity. Yeah, I've always go, but when I hit rock bottom, I hit rock bottom hard. Like when I lose it, like when I lost everything, I lost everything, right? Like living homeless in my car, or like when I shut down my company in 2022, I lost so much money. Everything I cashed out all my crypto, all my investments. I had nothing. I lived with her for a month before I moved out of the country, and I had not a fucking dime to my name. She was buying me, like dinner and stuff. Like I had nothing when I walked away from that experience, and I had a super successful business. I got, yeah, yeah.
Natasha.
In that case, what do you feel is the ultimate accomplishment?
In my life, or in general?
In general.
Whoa, honestly, how open you can be, how much you can open your heart, and the openness to love, compassion. Like if I die, when I pass in my late hundreds, and they're like doing like if the biggest compliment I'll ever get was she loved, because that's the only thing that changes the world. I believe it with every part of me, and it doesn't matter do I want to leave a legacy? Do I want to do all of that? But you know what? She always answered the phone. She always loved. She was always there. That to me is an accomplishment.
What other questions do we have? We're going to get you, Ronnie. I just want to get
Here's my thing.
Well, maybe his question will trigger another question.
What in the
All right, here you go.
I'll jump in. David kind of joked about it when he said, when I do something, get Mandy mad. Met you were asking for it. So this experience is you go through, I mean, even getting the rape part and other young girls going through all that. It's hard to accept, but I've heard it several times before. There was a soul contract that changed. So if that's the case, it's almost like, well, if you know that, then just let it be. Don't worry about it. I mean, I can't live like that. I mean,
and you shouldn't. And let me be very clear and I love that you're asking this question, because I think that this is a big challenge. And when I'm saying you didn't ask for it in your physical sense. There's no part of this physical reality world. What I'm saying is that we are such vast, multidimensional souls that came here to experience many, many things.
Exactly.
And that the experience on a soul level, and maybe on that soul level, it wasn't, you're going to do this exact thing, and that's going to be the thing that makes me want to, that I'm going to have to learn forgiveness. No, you asked to learn a lesson of forgiveness, or have love, or whatever that was on that soul level. Maybe you don't know what the exact experience of that looks like on this earthly plane. That does not excuse it. That does not bypass it. That doesn't mean there is trauma to it. That doesn't mean, right? Because I actually came here to actually have the experience of all of the things that are tied up in that. So when I was sexually, assaulted at the age of 10 by, and then I was raped when I was 17, and it changed me. It changed me. I remember, like, I couldn't go back to school. I sat and just stared at a wall for months, like doing puzzles like this. Like I was numb. Like I'd lost it. I was not in my body at all. Like I am so And so, and I say that, like, oh, do you ask for that? No, I mean, no, not in my physical human form, but when I look at the overarching experience of like my life and and what has happened, I honor my soul's choice at this point, right, to have put me through that experience so that I could learn to heal from that. And like, and for me, even before that, I was somebody that didn't want to be in my body. I had to tell you experience of like, I never wanted to be in my body. So I was a body escapist my entire life. And so that thing, like, if I don't know that if I had never had that experience, if I would have learned how to embody at this late in my life, right? Like in my 30s, to actually be in my body and love my body, and at the level that I do now. But I hear that, and that's why, obviously working with women and children, and trafficking and trauma and abuse would never be like in therapy or, in their healing or whatever, be like, yeah, and you asked for this on a soul level. This is we understand, like, this isn't something you tell a traumatized fucking teenager and be like, yeah, and you asked for this. No, I think that's going to hurt them even more, right? There's a reintroduction of trauma in that aspect of that. This is more of looking at this in the fact of like, as I move forward in my life, as I now know what I now know to be true, how can I apply the fact that I know on a soul level, and to be clear, like that, my rape of myself like that wasn't the worst trauma in my life. The worst trauma in my life was in my 20s when my partner, Brad, left me. Like, and I was worse than any other experience of anything that could have ever happened. That's what actually sent me into drug trafficking. It's the story behind it, and so we don't even know which ones or the pieces are going to be the things that's the worst thing that happened for us, right? And so there are layers of different things that can show up. And so I don't always ever be like, oh yeah, well, that's good for you. You chose that on the soul level and you can just work through it. No, we are living into our physical human bodies, and I'm trauma informed, and I'm like me working with trauma and all these things. We want to help people to move through that. And then hopefully someday they'll get to a point where they'll have that moment of gratitude or that peace or that thing, and they'll understand it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I felt strong belief that one of our purposes of fear, with other individuals, is in being service for the others. Now, and you, like I said, I bring out the love.
I do. I bring up 100%. Yeah.
We'll get your question and then ask down to Natasha.
So I'm a little bit speechless because there's so many things that you said that I've been healing myself in the last many years, right? Body, mind, everything. And I heal myself through visions. I have these mystical, divine, beautiful visions that has taken me to many of the things that you talked about. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest things that I have right now is finding like other people who has had healing through like a visual, like that sensation. Mm-hmm. And right now my visions are being of service. Mm-hmm. And so and writing this book, I have this book that they keep saying, your vision, put them all in it. But I'm at that point where not that I'm lost. I'm almost like, okay, I'm like free falling. Okay, tell me, so but I feel without a community because I can't talk to my friends about visions or my kids, they look at me and they give me 5 minutes and then they're like, Mom, okay, you went off, Even yesterday, I tell my daughter, yeah, I went into this vision and I saw my future self. And she's like, open the line, Mom.
You like, and that's the world I live in. Everybody in my world talks about that, right? Like, that's all right. So Emily is a student of mine in the mystery school, and I've been in my community for years, and I mean, that's our world. Right? Like, that's our world. Absolutely. 100%. So welcome.
But to a couple of things that you were saying. First off, I love the idea you said free falling. First, let me explain something. When we work with in the quantum reality of the world and everything and stuff, there's the space in between, and it is the energetics of how the field works. And it's like, I think of it like an alphabet soup, right? So y'all ate alphabet soup when you were a kid, had like the A, B, C's and D's and everything and stuff in it, right? But in the interim, like when you're getting the soup, before you pick an A or a B or a C, it's floating in the sauce, in the soup. That's the energy of the field. Before you actually make a decision, which becomes A, B, C, or D, you have all of the options available. You're looking at your soup. Every option is in there. It's whatever you want to choose. I get to choose it. That's the free falling. That's the space in between. That's where you are right now. Then you get to make a choice and a decision, both from your visions and the things that are coming in, what your body is telling you to do. I bring those things together, and then you get to choose. And guess what? You will never make a wrong choice. You will never make a wrong choice, because you will be divinely directed and guided into the next choice once you make that first choice. And so you can stay floating in the quantum reality of the soup as long as you want, and then you can decide to make a choice. But I mean, you're welcome to come into our community. We have people just like you.
Is it all online, or is
I mean, I do live events too. I take people. We go to Bali in November. We have Egypt next year. I have a live event in Austin. But yes, all of our schooling and the mystery school and everything, and the ceremonies and everything I do online. And now we're doing like live stream, because I'm doing live in Austin with a live stream too component thing. So yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Last question, so we can open the floor.
So one thing that really stood out to me is you used the word remembering when you were talking about bringing the spiritual and the physical world together. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think we're living in a place where it's a misnomer that we're awakening. We keep hearing this idea of we are awakening. No, we're remembering who we are, at the truth of who we are. So in the path of the initiate, which I'm reading it into with my mystery school, with path of initiate, when we're talking about initiations, is you're initiating yourself into the remembrance of who you are on a multidimensional level. So all of your strands of DNA, all parts of who you are, all of those things that are there. As you start to open up your field, you start to open up into all of the gifts and everything that you are in your lifetime. So it's, and my idea, like, I think that when we say awakening, it's saying that we are asleep. And I think most people that are walking into the path right now that we're at, there are people in this world that are still completely asleep. They live very 3D. They have no idea that there's a reality and a play and a thing that you can play with. But in my realm, in my reality, most people are awake. Like they're not sleeping through life anymore. We were sleeping through life 30, 40 years ago for sure, still in that space, but I think we're in a different place. And so where I say now is we are remembering the truth of who we are and aligning to that and bringing in, how many other lifetimes have I had? How many councils have I sat on in other dimensions? How many pieces, like, where do I bring and start to remember those things, because it becomes a part of who I am. I get drawn to a certain place, because if I go there, then I activate something in my system and I remember more of who I am. I remember that I am nature, I am earth, I am that, you are that, right? I remember that I am the light. Our pineal gland has light in it. Our DNA produces UV light. I mean, our cells produce UV light. Our DNA has light receptors in it, and we have photons of light in our body. Literally, science is telling us exactly what the ancients have told us for all along. I am light. So we are remembering, again, all of these things, and so science is just another way, in this very clinical way, of telling us how to remember everything that we've been taught. So I'm not here to awaken. I'm here to remember that I am already that, and that you are that, and that we are all this together.
Thank you. I also see like remembering as a word of bringing two members together.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's the other piece, right? Yeah. Like I talk about that in the parts, right? Of bringing all those parts and all the pieces. Yeah. I love it. Yummy.
So I guess we're renaming the magazine Remembering Magazine.
No.
Am I going to check the website to see if that's available?
Good name, yes.
RememberingMagazine.com.
You already said awakened, though.
That's true.
Already
Yes.
awakened. Yes. See?
Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Melissa, would you mind leading us? We've got about, 15 minutes, I think, 20 minutes left. Would you mind leading us in activation or whatever you sense that would be helpful for us?
So I kind of like to use my book. I got this idea from one of my students. They use it as a almost like an oracle card. They're like, what do I need to do today? Right, kind of thing. And so what I asked this morning, I was like, what is it that we're going to be working on today? And it came up to chapter 5, which is about reconnecting to yourself. And it says the body is a multilingual being. It speaks through its constant tiny dance, sometimes swaying, sometimes a jitter, sometimes trembling. And I think that's one of the things that, and I'm going to read a little bit from it, but I want to experience, like, it's about the physical body, right? Like somatic, getting in the body, getting the movement. Like in our mystery school, we do a lot of, movement. Like yoga, mudra are things like I don't teach yoga. But we have very specific, because it puts your body into a certain geometry, which then creates an experience in your system. But if you want to heal trauma, just get your body up and dance and move and like shake out all of the stuff that's in there. But one of the biggest things that I notice with people that are in the spiritual world or come into this thing is that they're always wanting to be out there somewhere, right? Like I'm channeling or I'm trying to connect to this thing out there. I keep thinking I have to go out there to have this experience, when it's actually that it's not separate from you, right? As within, so without, as above, so below, it's within. So learning to actually come into the body and ground, like grounding into the body and into Mother Gaia, is one of the most powerful things that you could do. Because I think that, because then you start to drop, like what if I drop God, if you want to call it, whatever, I drop God into me, like instead of thinking I have to connect to something that's out there, like you hear people say, I'm connecting, right? I'm connecting to this. No, you're not. It's there. The infinite field of reality, everything exists in it. If you think of a blanket, out there, this into the blanket and this into the blanket, it's still all the same blanket. So if I am part of that, then it's still all the same part of me. And it's already within me. I don't need to go connect to it, but I need to ground into my body and feel it in my body. So I'm going to actually, just because you read some of the things, I'm going to read this opening story from this, and then I'm going to take you guys through a process of grounding into your body and to move on to love, because I just think that that's the most powerful thing that we can do right now, is take all the information and ground it into your body and DNA. So, It had been a year since we lost our mother and were forced to leave Texas to start a new life in Ohio. My first year in Ohio had been extremely traumatic. I was pudgy, flat-chested, and unusually tall, with thick Coke bottle glasses and a southern drawl that I couldn't quietly try to hide. I stood out and I was different. I was also more advanced in my studies than the other students in my class, so I spent my days engaged in adult-sized books instead of mingling with the other kids. Needless to say, I didn't fit in and was struggling. I'd gone from the soft-spoken, timid child raised by an abusive father to being a bully to protect myself. My father had arrived recently, and Wendy and I were forced to live with him while Stephanie, still a baby, stayed with our grandparents. That summer, after school ended, he decided to take Wendy, who was now 4, and me, now 10, on a summer vacation to Florida. I had never seen the ocean or sand, and I was quietly hopeful. The old brown Pinto didn't have air conditioning, so all the windows had to be down. My hair and my stomach spun in knots as my dad chain smoked cigarettes, the sparks flying in the air as he flicked them out the open window. Quickly, my excitement turned to melancholy as we drove on to an endless sea of pavement, to an end that was nowhere in sight. Sick and wind-battered, we arrived at a small one-bedroom apartment in a motel-like building with wrought iron bars on the windows, children playing in the parking lot, and mothers leaning from the balconies, smoking and chatting. As we entered our home for the next 2 months, cockroaches scurried into dark corners since the empty apartment gave them nowhere to hide. The beach had white, silky sand, fine powder, and the crystal blue waters were the color of my mom's eyes. I was mesmerized by the expanse and beauty of the sand dollar beach that was a short drive away. I collected over 30 sand dollars, the dried fragile shells feeling chalky and smooth, as I packed them in my bag and ran free for the first time. The joy of that day was soon demolished when my dad met a woman and forgot about his daughters. left for days on end without food in a home with no furniture and only a mattress on the floor to sleep on, I became resourceful. We had met the neighbors, a young couple, much younger than my dad, and they had a little girl who was still in diapers and eating from a high chair. At first, the young man seemed to genuinely care for us, inviting us into his home to watch cartoons and eat. But he had an ulterior motive. He saw two young girls who no one was looking out for. He invited me to lie on his chest as my sister played with the infant girl. And that's when the sexual abuse started. I became a survivor that day, choosing food for myself and my sister over running away. I never told anybody what happened and endured the guilt of my silence. For many years, I was riddled with guilt for hiding the secret and for not trying to save that little girl from her dad. I would imagine him doing the same thing and I had experienced to her. When my father returned after days of being gone, I was thrust back into a violent situation, reminiscent of our days with mom. I hid in the closet, lying on top of my little sister, as my dad beat and raped the woman he'd brought back to the apartment. In a few short weeks between the experiences with my dad and the young man, the story that my body was dangerous and that being a girl wasn't safe, which had been my experience most of my life, was solidified. I began to hate my body and I tried to escape it. This is the piece, is trying to escape your body we want to ground in. So the trauma and emotional dysregulation of my childhood and my early teens followed me into adulthood. Like many, I have no idea that my physical ailments, panic attacks, eating disorders, and self-mutilation stemmed from years of abuse, physical, mental, and emotional. I internalized the physical abuse from my father and the emotional abuse from my grandparents. And throughout my college years, before getting pregnant, I tried new medications prescribed by psychologists only to pass out from panic attacks and be rushed to the hospital repeatedly. I suffered from body dysmorphia, staring into mirrors and seeing fat, unloved person, even though I had lost 40 pounds in 2 years as I starved myself, living off cigarettes. The smell from my childhood that once made me sick became my sanctuary. When life became overwhelming, I retreated to the recesses of my mind, hiding in the closets or curling up on the floor, shaking and crying all night. I felt alone and abandoned, constantly wondering what was wrong with me. That laid the foundation for my chasing highs and seeking love and safety in a community filled with parties. These physical manifestations were a mirror of my emotional state and the trauma stuck in my body. The years of abuse in my childhood wired my nervous system for constant alertness, keeping me in a perpetual state of fight or flight or freeze and fear. I think this one speaks to the question you're asking, right? Because this is this idea of like, I was so afraid to be in my body. And so I just kept escaping. And I think that's where so many of us are at. With it, growing up, maybe they didn't have this, right? But I've heard, whatever your story is, it's weird. I was so afraid to be in the body, so afraid to do that. If we can just find one way to ground in or one way to experience in our bodies, when you start to feel that and feel safe in the body, then I can start to experience what we say it's self-love or these things, but it goes beyond that. It's a field that we have to tap into. So I'm going to teach you all a grounding practice that we're going to just do here. And just learn how to fish ground into your body. And this is a piece of the pillar of light. So when you're building the pillar of light, there's so I have activations. There's different pieces for every single one of your chakras and these different ways to go up and breath and things like that. But this one is the most powerful. And honestly, if you don't do anything else, this and the heart breath are the only two things you ever take into the rest of your life. If you do these two consistently every single day, and because I think that's part of the other thing is I think that people think transformation or that healing or going through things, it's like really hard, or that I got to do a bunch of stuff, or that there's going to be so many different things that I need to do. But honestly, if you take just two pieces and practice them over and over, it opens the doorway, and you'll see some real massive changes. So first, like this is for those, and I'm just going to go really simple here because I don't know anybody's level of what you've done anything, but your pelvic bowl, right? Like so, your perineum. If you squeeze your buttocks, right, that's the perineum. That's where your buttocks is. That's your root chakra. It's at the bottom. And so when we're breathing deep into our belly, deep into this pelvic bowl and into that area. You're literally, I like to imagine them breathing into the, the bottom and right into my seat. So just take a few moments and we're just going to practice the breath first. You can keep your eyes open, you can close them, whatever feels good to you. I just want you to just breathe in normal, but when you're breathing in, breathe into your belly. And then just allow that air, just hold it there and just allow it to swirl. Just start to feel, as you get really good at this, you'll start to feel the energetics in your body move
But just breathe and just hold that there and just feel it. Just want you to feel what it feels like. And then just breathe out. We're going to do just one more of these back breaths just deep into the pelvic bowl, just so you know what it feels like before we add in the, so breathe into that pelvic bowl, deep into your belly. Let that breath swirl around in there. What you're doing as you're setting your attention and your focus, right? Where attention flows, attention goes, and you know what I mean. What you're doing is you're allowing for your energy, because there's blocked energy. Our root chakra and our solar plexus, our sacral chakra, are the most blocked energetically in our bodies mostly. So now this time when you breathe in, I want you to breathe in, but I want you to squeeze your buttocks. I want you to still breathe into that area, but I want you to squeeze the perineum, squeeze the buttocks, breathe into that area. And then really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So what you're doing now is you're dropping down into your body. You're allowing that breath to drop in. You're opening the energy channel in your lower chakras so that you can start to feel what it feels like to be safe in your body. And then when you breathe out, instead of breathing out normal, I want you to imagine that breath is shooting down, down, down below you, through your tailbone, and all the way down into the center of Mother Gaia, into the earth. So just breathe out and shoot it down. And then when you breathe up, just imagine that breath is now coming back up through Mother Gaia, through the earth. Breathe that breath up, 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 and right back into that pelvic bowl, into your body. Squeezing again, squeeze, called Mula Bandha lock. So that Mula Bandha is that first root chakra. So squeezing that energy again, squeezing it. And then breathing back down. And then breathing up again, breathing that energy up. Just allowing yourself to connect. This is a really side note, sounds really simple, but that squeezing and that breath down into the earth is grounding your body. And it's a simple technique that you can use anywhere, anytime, to come back to yourself. And it's going to bring you back to center. So like if you're, how many of you have like runaway thoughts, or you're always up in your head, or, right? Things like that. Do this. What it's doing, you're dropping down into your body. So instead of being up here, all these things are in my thoughts or in my head, and I'm worried or I'm guilty or I'm whatever. I'm dropping it into my body. And then you can practice, once you learn that, you can start to practice dropping manifestations, intentions, and different things into your body so that your body can start healing itself. But the move on to lock is a super, super easy. The other piece that's in this chapter that I talk about, because this chapter is about how I went from escaping my body and being a body escapist who didn't want to be a part of my body because of all my trauma, to loving it and being in it, was, it's called dance. And so we're going to finish out today with some dance. So what I want you to do is I want you to just get up and move in your body. Like, that's it. Like, if you have something you want to release, you can shake it out. Or if you just want to dance because you're joyful, and know that there's no judgments here. Nobody gives a flying rat's ass whether you can dance or not. Nobody's paying attention to you. They're paying attention to themselves. We're going to get up and we're going to move. And we're going to start with this song here. I'd love to go around the room and have everybody like one aha or something you're going to take away from today that's going to support you. And then I have books. So for those of you that are my friends and my clients that already have my book, you don't get one today. Because I only brought a certain amount because we had people like last minute. I was going to have a big shipment. And, I knew you brought yours to get signed. Yeah. And if I don't have enough books, I'll ship you one. And when I get back home, I have 100 sitting in my house. So. But I would love to I just want to go around the room and get everybody's ahas. I think there's something to take away from today. But I would love to either do it with the microphone so that we can get out on the thing so we can hear it.
Yeah. I'll go last.
Okay. We're just hoping you're taken away. Or
Well, you know what? I really loved your blanket analogy. We're all part of the same blanket, or even though we're on opposite sides of the patch or different areas, we're all same blanket.
yeah.
I'm taking away an expanded sense of freedom.
And freedom.
Mine is that Ankh. It's like still with me.
Right. Awesome. Yes.
Yes.
I'm taking away hope because that curious story I have really don't show me their output on their training. And it really allows me to have more, still hope, stronger hope without one ever too far down.
Yeah. That we never know what people's journey has been and what they've gone through. And so when you walked in, I was like, oh, she has sleeves. Her pink is so bright. And then I met you. Right? So anyway, you became this huge being for me, not just the pink suit.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, there's so many things that I'm taking away, but one of the biggest one is that I'm not alone. So it feels good.
Nice.
Grounding myself. That everything comes from love.
Yeah.
The courage to be open-minded, willing, and honest, and to trust the process.
Sorry, this is going to be that deep, but I can get to my root chakra by squeezing my ass cheeks.
Yeah. That's great. Like, yeah. That's deep enough. Like it was. Yeah.
Start somewhere.
How deep is your
Stay home. What I mean by stay home is stay in this body. When we're transmitting or receiving, bring it in here. Don't. Where is it at? Come here. Come home.
Yeah.
This present home.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I'm taking away the lesson of how powerful our stories are. So I could tell you. Yes, I really appreciated hearing your story. And for just the working with my daughter, Sarah, what's been Melissa's. And it helped me to understand that I love them all. And thanks to you. That after hearing your story and its resilience, I'm here to say it's joyous. You to have that stamina. I just truly admire that. And that now you're here for the true. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to see. Your hardship and turn it into empowering other people to live their best life. Then it comes from a place of love. Yeah, thank you.
Mine is a theme that has been in my life recently, but it just feels echoed today, that the invitation to expand my heart, to allow it to expand as far and wide as possible, that I am not in any way disconnected from unconditional love. I have no limitation on the amount of love that I can give other people, because I'm swimming in an ocean of love that is endless and never ending. And that then, because of that fact, then it is safe to open my heart to love, because it's unending. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Melissa. Will you guys give her a hand? I'd love to obviously give you a moment for closing thoughts, but just a blessing that you would give us of any words of affirmation or encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Siri esserigin tire so tire ase tiri siri inte siri katinga se. All there is love. You are love. I am love. You are all that. And you came to be a unique expression of your love. So the highest vibration is authenticity. Right? Yeah, I mean, my pink suits, whatever your thing is, right? Be fucking authentically true to yourself. You need your unique strand to show up in this world. I don't want you to be like me or like anyone else. Shine your light, see your visions, do your thing, go find out and be wildly unique to you. I think that's the key. Authentically, you is the message for today. Yeah. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Awaken Magazine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and our other conversations, would you mind taking a moment to leave a 5-star review and maybe even a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That's one of the ways that you can give back to the show and help us reach more people. And of course, feel free to share the episode with a friend. And if you're not already on our email list, we send out an inspiring email every Monday morning full of articles and interviews. Just head on over to awakenedmagazine.com and click subscribe and join for free. Our hope is that all the resources we share will help our world continue awakening to love.